Welcome to Mr. Biz Radio, Biz Talk for biz owners. During the next half hour, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth, a leading business advisor and two-time best-selling author, will cover topics that'll help business owners run their companies more profitably and more efficiently. If you're ready to stop faking the funk and take your business onward and upward, this show is for you. And now, here's Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth.
All right, welcome to another episode of Mr. Biz Radio with me, your good old buddy, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth. And this week, we're going to, it won't be the official title of the show, but I'm going to mention, do it for the doggies, okay? And I'm going to explain that in a minute here, but we're going to talk about a nonprofit that is has a mission that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure with a whole bunch of you that are watching and listening. We're going to learn about that nonprofit, but we're also going to learn about, our guest this week is going to tell us, because he started this nonprofit and it's been massively successful. So any of you out there that have ever had the dream or the idea of someday I'd like to have a nonprofit, maybe you'd like to run a foundation or something like that at some point. I know that's one of my goals. We want to have a Mr. Biz Foundation where we help lots of people. And so we're still in the very early formation stages of that, but that's a goal of mine. So kind of selfishly, I'm going to learn from this episode as well, because, I want to make sure we learn how to create a successful nonprofit. What are some of the things that we need to look at doing? Maybe some of the things that we have to avoid. And our guest this week is going to help us with that. Our guest this week is Mr. Jeff Allen. He's the co-founder of, as I mentioned, successful nonprofit Monkey's House, a dog hospice and sanctuary. When he's not saving dogs, he's helping improve people's lives as a technology leader for a global biopharmaceutical company. Jeff's an award-winning and best-selling author of Where Dogs Go to Live. So, Jeff Allen, welcome to Mr. Biz Radio.
Ken, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's been a few months ago. I guess probably about maybe 4 months or so. Was it that long ago? I can't remember.
About 4 months.
Yeah, when we first connected and we finally getting Joe on the show, we had a backlog of guests and all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm excited to have you on the show, Jeff, because I want to talk about Monkey's House. I want to talk about some of the trials and tribulations you've had and the successes you had in creating Monkey's House. But first, let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey. What sort of brought you to creating this nonprofit, Monkey's House?
So, like you said, Ken, I've been in corporate America my whole life, worked for a few different major companies. And my wife was a nurse and she retired. She retired because we actually started a brick and mortar business. It was an equestrian store selling, horse goods, riding equipment. We had that for about 5 or 6 years. It did well, but it was just a lot of work. And it was right around 2008, 2010 when the economy kind of tanked. And the .com industry was coming out, and we kind of gave that up because it just wasn't working for us. And then we were animal lovers, obviously. We started to foster a lot of dogs. And we realized that because my wife was a nurse, they were giving us all the sick dogs, and we'd take them in. And I think like anything else, even with a business, when you see the need for something, that's when you take action. And we saw that there was no resources for these sick dogs. And we said, and we were spending a lot of our own money to get, at one time we had 9 dogs that we were fostering or adopting.
Oh, wow.
And they were all sick dogs. So we said, we have to do something. And we looked into starting a nonprofit.
Well, so I got to ask, Jeff, so equestrian to dogs, like, do you have like lizards and birds and everything else in the mix too, or?
We have chickens, we have ducks, we had goats. Yeah, we have quite a few animals. Yes.
Yeah. So you have like a little bit of an Allen mini farm. Is that what I'm hearing? We
actually have 6 acres here in southern New Jersey. Yes, we're in farm country.
Okay. All right. So I guess I presume that you guys have always had dogs, probably, right? Is that right?
Yes, we've always had dogs. I grew up with dogs and horses actually, and so did my wife. And then our first animal we got we've been married for 30 some years, and the first animal we got was a dog.
Gotcha. No, I was just trying to think of the transition. Obviously, the equestrian store, it was a business, it's for profit, but you're helping you're helping horses indirectly, you're helping horse owners, et cetera, to moving to dogs? Was it just, horses are too darn big? Like,
yeah, horses take too much room and probably not as much, probably the same amount of work, because these dogs do take a lot of work. But what I found very interesting is when I first started the nonprofit, a lot of the material you get is, and even from the government, we started a business. And I didn't even, at first, it's like, this isn't a business, it's a nonprofit. I even said that the first year. And now going through this now we're going on our 7th year, it definitely is a business. And you have to work it like a business. Basically, you obviously have passion, especially when you want to start a nonprofit. I think you have passion for a business as well, maybe not quite as much, wanting to do good, but you do have to treat it as a business or you won't be successful.
Well, it's interesting. And right off the bat, I'll tell you guys, when I first met and talked with Jeff, in the past, I've rescued dogs and adopted them, several of them in the past as well. And, when you do that, it's very, honestly, it's a really good experience. And I almost felt a little bit selfish because the intrinsic heartwarming aspect of it that I felt. Now, obviously we're helping the dog and everything, but it just made me feel really good that I'm helping a dog out of a bad situation, and not be stuck in a shelter or worse. And so, that right away, Jeff resonated with me. And it was funny when we first talked, if you remember, Jeff, I'm sure maybe you don't, but, Jeff was like, I don't know if it'd be good for the show or not. Like, we have this thing. And I'm like, no, this would be great. This would be great to talk about. And 9 sick dogs. I can't even imagine.
Well, and today we have 25 dogs here with the nonprofit. Right? So at one time we were up to 31, and I'm like, oh God, this is too much, because I have to tell people that these dogs are in our home and on our farm. So they are not in kennels. These dogs are living on little couches, so they're all over the place. So it is quite amazing. Of how it goes. And, Ken, one thing that started years and years ago, if you talk about how I got started in nonprofit, I was a big cyclist. So I would do these cancer rides and raise money. And I always was able to raise a lot of money. And at one time I said, I should be able to raise 10X. Like, I was close to $1,000. I said, I should be able to raise 10,000. And I raised 10,000, and then I started Monkey's House. And actually, I've been involved in raising over $1 million now. So I think everybody has the capability of raising or helping out more than they think they can. Like, now I'm going on, my future thought is now 10 million, right? In the future.
Well, no, Jeff, and that's exactly, I wanted to get to that is, and that's what I think will resonate with folks, because anyone who's considered, like myself, like I mentioned, starting a foundation, any sort of nonprofit, but their main concern is, gosh, how am I going to raise the money? That's one of the things that I definitely want to make sure that if not before, we talk about in the third segment is the success you've had and your ability to do that. And the fact that, it's not like you have Elon Musk as your uncle and you just ask Elon for like some big fat check. You've gone through a lot of processes to do that. And so I think that's a great message for anyone who's considering a nonprofit, but is intimidated by raising money and things like that. And how the heck can I do it? I think you'll be able to share a lot for it. And again, selfishly for me, it's going to help me out too. And I'll probably be taking a lot of notes. But nonetheless, we're talking again this week with Mr. Jeff Allen, who's a co-founder of Monkey's House, a dog hospice and sanctuary. You can find out more at monkeyshouse.org. Come back after the break on Mr. Biz Radio.
Business owners have a continually growing to-do list with little time for revenue-producing activities. With Check Off Your List and their experienced team of virtual assistants, you can focus on growing your business. Visit checkoffyourlist.com to learn how Check Off Your List's skilled team can handle your day-to-day tasks like social media, bookkeeping, calendar maintenance, and much more. Contact Check Off Your List at checkoffyourlist.com or call 888-262-1249 to see how their virtual assistants can help you live to work rather than work to live.
Thank you for listening to Mr. Biz Radio. Did you know our show airs 7 days a week for more than 30 hours now? If you are in the B2B space and would like to reach thousands of business owners every week, including our more than 250,000 social media followers, our thousands of daily internet radio listeners, our email list fans, and Mr. Biz Solutions members, email us at info@MrBizSolutions.com to become a sponsor. Tap into Mr. Biz Nation to help grow your business.
Check out both of Mr. Biz's national best-selling books, Pathway to Profits and How to Be a Cash Flow Pro on Amazon. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. And it's time, as we always share at the beginning of the second segment, the Mr. Biz tip of the week. And this week's tip is a really important one of my favorites. I have a lot of favorites, but this is one of my favorites. And the tip this week is to start with yes, with customers, with employees, with ideas, all those things. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, and this, I'm sure you'll pick up on this, or this will resonate with you at some point when you think about it a little bit. When someone comes up with a new idea, let's say, for example, let's say an employee comes to you or a customer comes to you and says, what about, is your first thought the negative? Is that your first thought that we can't do that because of fill in the blank? Or is your first thought, that might be challenging, but let's think about how we might be able to make that work? The latter is what you want to do, because you shut down a lot of ideas right off the bat that could end up with a lot of success with employees, again, with all these different ideas and things like that. Super, super important. You got to start with yes. You got to have that right mental attitude. Don't automatically say no. Automatically say yes. Now, you may figure out the steps and actions and execution necessary to achieve whatever that is, to make whatever it is happen. You may figure out like that's just not going to work, but at least explore it. And what I mean by that is it could be, oh my gosh, in order to do this, it's going to take an investment of $100,000. We don't have that now. But wait a minute, what can we do to come up with that $100,000? And then you may put together a plan to come up with that excess $100,000. So you've got an 8-month plan, let's say, to come up with $100,000, and then you can execute that plan. If you start with no and you go, that won't work, that's going to take money and we don't have it, you just shut down that idea automatically. So start with yes, because that can lead to awesome, awesome things in your business, in your life. So that is the Mr. Biz tip of the week this week. So Jeff, let's talk about Monkey's House. So the first thing I got to ask you is we talked a little bit about it, but I wanted to give you a chance to maybe even talk about it a little bit more, is the why. You guys you mentioned you were fostering and taking care of 8 to 9 dogs at the time and decided, Jesus, is costing us a lot of money. Was that sort of the genesis of everything?
Yeah, well, it was really because there's a lack of resources. Yes. We had a dog that we were fostering. The dog was a beautiful golden retriever. Her name was Goldie. And Goldie, she was emaciated. She was probably about 12 years old. And they said, look, we know, Michelle, you're Italian. You should be able to get this dog to eat. You're a retired nurse. But we couldn't get her to eat. And she had a tumor on her side. And Michelle said, there's something going on more with this dog than we're not going to be able to get food. I don't think she should have surgery. So she actually took the dog to our vet under our name. Like, you're not supposed to do that when you're fostering, right? But she said, no, we feel very strongly about the dogs we fostered. And the vet said, no, this dog only has a short time to live. So we adopted Goldie. And a few weeks later, she went to the Rainbow Bridge. But at that point, we realized that there's definitely a lack of funds. And that's what got us really thinking about it. And then you laugh and say, how do we come up with a name like Monkey for a dog hospice? Well, Monkey was same thing. He was a little dog, a little Heinz 57 mix that the shelter gave us. The shelter vet said, just take him home and let him pass, keep him comfortable. He probably has a month or 2 to live. That doesn't work for us. Again, my wife said to the vet, I know he has cardiac problems. He probably can use some very inexpensive meds. The shelter vet wouldn't budge. And I know they're lacking funds. So we adopted him, took him to our vet, saw a cardiologist. We got him very inexpensive meds. He lived a wonderful life for 17 months instead of those 2 months. And that was it. When he passed, we started Monkey's House.
Well, that was my next question. I was going to ask you, like, how's a dog hospice and sanctuary called Monkey's House? So I'm glad you kind of filled us in on that. Well, so and one other thing I want to touch on, Jeff, is I hear your entrepreneurial spirit and a lot of different things you said, but one in particular is with Goldie. That you're not, like you said, you're not supposed to take a rescue to a dog you're fostering to your own vet. that's an entrepreneurial way. And the way I hear the entrepreneurialism is you're going to ask for forgiveness, not permission. You're like, look, this needs to be done. I'm going to go do it. I don't have to ask someone permission for this. I'm going to freaking go do it because it's the right thing to do. And there's definitely an element of entrepreneurialism in that.
Definitely. And my wife, even more than me, she is the medical expert, and we end up doing a lot of things. She's become such an expert that other rescues reach out to her. Even if they're taking a dog to the vet, they reach out to her and ask her first. And usually they come back and say, yeah, you said the same thing the vet was going to say, because they just want to confirm with us. And, we've done that, taking dogs in here. The key is that these dogs, we get them as healthy as possible. We feed them holistic foods. They eat better than I eat. They get the vitamins they need. They get nutrients. They'll get the traditional medicines as well. But we also do the non-traditional modalities too for dogs that need it. Whatever they need, they get. I think it's an approach that has resonated very well with our base of followers. I think so. Whatever, even a business or a nonprofit, I think that's very important that you always are telling stories. Like, we're always telling stories about these dogs, about how we don't look at in the past, because a lot of these dogs are mistreated, but from when they get here to the future, that's their life. That's their story.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that a little bit. So how many dogs have you had through over the years through Monkey's House?
I think we've had over 130 dogs. I know we've had over 130. I can't give you the exact number off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I can't even imagine. So how difficult, gosh, this is a tough question to ask even. How difficult is it for you guys? I mean, I guess you know the role you're fulfilling in this dog's life, if it has if it's terminal, but how difficult is that? I can't even imagine. I mean, I know when our dogs have passed in the past, how devastating it's been for our family, for me, even personally. How do you guys wrestle with that? How do you deal with that?
Ken, it's actually no different than you or anybody else. Each dog that we bring in here, even if we've had them for a few weeks, it breaks our hearts, right? My wife said one time, the day that stops is the day we stop having Monkey's House, because they deserve all the love that we can give them. Like I said, even for a few weeks. But we understand that is our mission, and we're willing to take that pain to give them a good month, 3 months, sometimes 3 years.
Yeah, Jeff, I got to tell you, like, especially having gone through losing dogs in the past in our family and everything, and seeing the devastation that has, and the long lasting impacts that even has. To me, that is the biggest sacrifice you and your wife are making, because I just can't imagine the emotional toll. I mean, again, that's the role you're fulfilling, but my gosh, I mean, hats off to you guys for being able to have the emotional strength to be able to do that and give these dogs a fitting, well end to their lives. Man, I can't imagine.
We're with every one of them when they pass to the Rainbow Bridge. They're on our laps. Usually we try to do it at the house, so vets will come out, but they're with us, or they're with one of their favorite volunteers here.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. It's incredible. Find out more at monkeyshouse.org. That's monkeyshouse.org. Come back after the break. Jeff's going to talk us through some of how he created this nonprofit and it's been so successful.
Are you ready to automate your business? Automation is the key to scaling a business and building wealth. It's also one of the most difficult things for a small business owner to do on their own. If you're looking for help with automation, Pulse Technology CRM can help. We have an exclusive offer for Mr. Biz Nation. We will build everything for free, even if it's a sophisticated funnel. Visit thepulsespot.com/Mr. Biz for this exclusive offer.
If you find listening to Mr. Biz Radio is helpful, imagine having live access to not only Mr. Biz, but also 5 other trusted business experts. It's true. you can have live access to your very own CFO, plus a business attorney, a website and digital marketing expert, a sales and growth guru, a financing professional, and a customer experience master. Visit MrBizSolutions.com to learn more. Join Mr. Biz Nation at MrBizSolutions.com.
To submit questions to the show, email them to info@MrBizSolutions.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. And again, this week we're talking with Mr. Jeff Allen, who's the co-founder of Monkey's House, a dog hospice and sanctuary. And I'm glad the end of the segment was the end of the segment last one. Again, I was conjuring up some of my memories of some of the dogs that we've lost. And like I said, I'm not a super emotional person or anything like that, but man, it's, it really hits you. I mean, they become part of your family, just like anyone else. So that was just kind of hit me there towards the end. I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad it wasn't at the beginning of the segment. But moving past that, on the positive note, and again, that's positive as well. Like I said, I'm not trying to put a negative spin on it. It's definitely positive, because what you guys are doing for these dogs and giving them, like I said, a fitting end and is keeping them as comfortable as they can be at the end of their lives. I mean, it's amazing. And so let's talk a little bit about that. So you created Monkey's House. In order to do that, walk us through some of the things that you've done that, have helped make it successful. Maybe talk about some of the things that you've been able to accomplish with Monkey's House and things like that, Jeff.
It's when we started this, it was all about the dogs, and it still is all about the dogs. But one of the biggest things we found out, it's also about the people, and that could, obviously it's volunteers, but I think more so is your followers, if you're a business, your customers, right? Your supporters, it's about them. And I think I said in the last segment, it's all about stories. So you need to, whatever kind of nonprofit you have to be able to tell that in stories, in heartwarming stories, if you can, right? And the social media is the big thing today. When I'm thinking about, well, how do we get our message out? Because everybody wants to get their message out. It's social media. When we first started Monkey's House, we opened up a Facebook page, and that's our main platform. Although we use Instagram and some of the others, you should use many of them if you can. But Facebook ended up being this community of more than even just Monkey's House. People will get on there, like you said, and someone loses their dog, they get on there. We have over 80,000 followers now on Facebook. So, and like I said, it's a community. We didn't expect that, but that's what you need to succeed. I think with that, you have to have the right technology. So and I think what you said earlier, sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to invest, especially a nonprofit. You're really strict on the money because we want to use the money for the dogs, for vet care, for food. But, sometimes you have to spend money to make money. And I remember when I first got my first donor management and fundraising campaign software, it was a few $1,000s. And this is when we just started out. And I'm like, I can't do this on spreadsheets anymore. I have to have something. And I had to convince the board to do it. And like I said, and now we're bringing in, a couple $100,000 plus a year, because we're basically bringing in for our budget, and that's needed. So you need the proper technology, the tools. You need a great website. That's always critical, is the base website, which I think everybody's always trying to improve their websites. So I think those are some of the things that you really have to think about.
So have there been any things, Jeff, that you've found that you've come across as you were starting Monkey's House and in the continued evolution and growth and success of it? Are there any of those things that you've maybe done that you're like, oh crap, I'd never do that again, or gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that?
So one of the things was, again, like you have to spend money to make things right. You get what you pay for. Sometimes we had a great friend who helped us, who was a legal advice, a lawyer who helped us set it up. But some things weren't set up exactly right. So we're still to this day kind of struggling through that, because the official name is, I think it's Monkey House, an animal sanctuary. So it's not really, doesn't even have dog in it. So it's the way it was set up. So now we do DBA, do business as, what you said, Monkey's House. So all those things are very critical. They seem like little things, but in the long run, they're not that little.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, what are some ways that you guys raise funds? What are some different types of campaigns that have been successful for you?
Well, I think the biggest one really is just once a day, we tell our story on Facebook. And we have someone else that puts it on Instagram, but really it's on Facebook. And these people from around the world literally fall in love with dogs they've never met. And they want to see the same dog, or they want to hear the stories if the dog's getting surgery. I think that resonates with our supporters, our followers, and you have to keep them engaged. Sometimes I'll do surveys, I do newsletters, and then I have so we have an annual campaign at the end of the year where we raise probably 40% of our funds. And then we do have a monthly campaign, a monthly donation based as well. So people will say, hey, I want to donate every month. And then some basic things like a t-shirt once a year. We do calendars. Both of those, they don't raise a ton of money, but they're publicity and they do raise some money. But one thing I would say is we don't focus on asking for money all the time. There's certain things that we ask money for because we really want to get our story out. We want people to be part of our family. You don't want your relatives asking you for money for all the time. And that's kind of how we think too. What is key to us is in 2019, Michelle was a CNN hero. And that brought a lot of followers. And we were at about 10,000 followers on Facebook. Overnight, with that and some other media attention, we were at 50,000. So the media is big to be able to you need to get that base up. You need that donor management. You need to, I don't want to say coddle the donors, but you want to keep them engaged and keep them involved.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, Jeff. I mean, think about it. You've created a community and people want to hear about those things. There's I'm based in Columbus, Ohio, and there's a Rescued Ohio organization that's based here in Columbus, but they have sort of branches all over the state. And it's, obviously to get dogs rescued, it's a little bit of a different situation you're in, but it's interesting. They have sort of a similar model, it sounds like, from what I see is, I'm part of their Facebook group and things like that. And they'll bring in a new dog that maybe has a health ailment, not a terminal ailment, but something that's wrong with him or her. And they'll post a picture of the dog and they'll tell the story and they'll say, this is Sadie. And Sadie came to us and she has this growth and we've gone to the vet and it's going to be blah, blah, blah. And we're really trying to raise some funds for her. And they'll create a little bit of a campaign for Sadie in this example. And it's amazing to me, right? I'll see that, they're looking for $1,500 for surgery for Sadie. And, 2 days later, I'll see an update and they raised $2,500. $10 at a clip or $20 or, someone go $50. I mean, there's so many people, like you said, you establish that base. And if everyone gives $10 or, not even large sums, it really starts to add up quickly.
Can you imagine? I was thinking this myself. Betty White, when she passed, there was this big campaign for Betty White for people to donate to their local shelters or rescues. Yeah. Now, I just came out of the annual campaign, so I didn't really want to push it. I mean, like I said, I don't want to ask people for money all the time. Yeah. I was going back and forth with my wife. Should we just say something? So we did. We said, look, if you want to, in her honor, donate, great. But I really appreciate everybody that did the annual campaign. We met our goals. We raised $15,000. And wow, I can't imagine. And other rescues around here, they raised 20,000. They raised 25. So I think across the globe, across the U.S., millions were raised for in honor of Betty White. And it just shows that people have really big hearts. And I think no matter what nonprofit you have, it could be animal related, child related, maybe food, seniors, whatever it is. I think you will get, if you tell those stories, you will be able to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you coming on. Go out and check out monkeyshouse.org, monkeyshouse.org. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on, sharing the story of Monkey's House and sharing some of your tips as well.
Thank you, Mr. Biz. I greatly appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, guys, thanks for watching and listening as always. And don't forget, cash flow is king.
This has been Mr. Biz Radio. To learn how to become part of Mr. Biz Nation, visit MrBizSolutions.com. For access to free weekly content, subscribe to the Mr. Biz YouTube channel and follow him on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. To listen to archive shows, you can find them on the Mr. Biz Solutions website.